Hi my lovelies, welcome to the channel. Today, I thought since it's Pride Month that we would talk about my top 6 favorite romance reads. So with these, there's a whole range of things between really dark romances, between standalones and series, and then also some kind of fantasy ones. So I'm very excited to talk to you guys about these because these are all books or series that I've either started or finished or read and loved, and so I'm just very excited to share these with you. So I also have a couple honorable mentions, so I'll start with those. The first one is The Divorced Men's Club by Saxon James. It's a 6-book series and it follows a group of men. These are all romances in this series, and it follows a group of men who have all been divorced or widowed, or there's also marriage and trouble romance, but basically this involves stuff like It's Always Been You, brother's best friend, friends to lovers, enemies to lovers, workplace romance, the whole nine. So there's a lot in here, and I'm sure that anybody could find something that they love in this series. The second honorable mention I have that I'm not going to go too much into is the LSU series by Becca Steele. This one is really, really good. It's an 8-book series. Some of them are novellas, some of them are full-length books, and it follows a group of guys at a college. It's got stuff like student-teacher, best friends to lovers, enemies to lovers, and then there's also one that's like use me to practice on. So a lot of good stuff in there, and again, something for everybody in that series, so I would highly recommend it. So the first series I'm going to go into is Alabaster Penitentiary by Nyla K. This one, out of all of the books especially, granted I think with most of these I would check your trigger warnings because most of them are pretty emotional. They have some mental illness representation or just something that might make some people uncomfortable, so I think if you have something that you're triggered by, definitely check your triggers for this, especially Alabaster Penitentiary, because this one is very dark. But basically, Alabaster Pen is a prison where the worst of the worst get sent. And, so people who are mass murderers, rapists, the people that you do not want going to your jail, or you do not want existing, basically, they go to this place. And so when you get sent there, you're made to disappear off the face of the earth because nobody knows that this prison exists. So anybody that gets sent there, they're basically gone. Either their death is faked or they just disappear. So this series follows the guards' lives, and it also follows the inmates. And then the 6th and final book, it's not out yet. 5 also isn't out yet. So right now only 4 books are out. But in the 6th book, we also get the guy's love story who's running the prison, and he is the big bad of the series. But basically, Distorted is book 1, and this follows Dash, and he gets sent to this prison, but he just robbed a bank. So the entire time we're reading this book, he's very confused about why he was sent here, because he is interacting with people who have killed people, who have just done horrible things. We also are introduced to this character called the Carver, who book 3 is about. He's amazing. He's my favorite. His book is my favorite, but we're introduced to him, and he was a serial killer, so he's someone that would definitely end up in this prison. But Dash, the entire time, he's very confused as to why he ends up here. Why wouldn't he just go to a regular prison since he just robbed a bank? So he's sitting here, he's finding his bearings, and he meets this officer. His name is Officer Kemper, and they start a very abusive relationship. Granted, things get better towards the end, but going into this, please be made aware that this book especially is very dark between the MCs, and it's not something that you should go into lightly. It's very dark. And also with this book especially, the author has made it extremely well known when you start this book. Do not look up spoilers for this one especially, and do not post spoilers for it if you read it, please, because there are a lot of things that happen throughout the book that you might not expect necessarily, and so you want to go into this one very blind. Just go into it knowing that if you have triggers, please check them, because this is a very dark one. The next book is Joyless. This one is MMF, and it is, or MFM. I don't know which one means that they all intermingle, but they're all together, basically. It's a poly relationship. And basically Joyless follows Rook, and he's the newest guard at Alabaster Penitentiary, and it's with him, and the main guard that we see is Vel, or Officer Chevelle. We meet him in book 1, and we also meet Officer Joy Jameson in book 1. So Joy and Vel, they have a friends with benefits situation that they've had going on for years, and they are very, very close friends. Like, they confide in each other about everything. They're very trusting with each other. They very deeply care about each other. Enter Rook. He and Vel hit it off immediately, and Vel is very taken with him. And so with them, it's basically Rook and Vel interact, and then Joy kind of joins them, and then they all get together, and it's really, really good. This one wasn't my favorite because I'm realizing more and more that poly relationships or reverse harem, things like that, aren't necessarily my bag. I'm more of a monogamous person myself, but I did really enjoy this book. The relationships were really complex, especially between Rook and Vel. I loved their relationship, and Joy and Vel especially as well. They had such a deep and loving relationship. Like, those two care about each other so deeply, and so if you are into relationships like that, I would highly, highly recommend this. And even though it isn't something that I usually gravitate towards or even typically enjoy, I did really have a good time with this. And if you do decide to continue with the series after Distorted, it offers a lot of plot stuff. So these books are all interconnected standalones, but they all follow a plot line. So if you want to continue with this series, or if you start it and find yourself interested in it, it's fairly important that you keep going with the whole thing. It's not one of those series that you could necessarily jump around with. The next one is Brainwashed, and this one is my favorite out of this series. So this one follows Felix, who is the Carver, who is the serial killer in Alabaster Pen, and he is very scary, but he's also very lovable. He's really nice to Dash in book 1, and so you get really curious about him. And his book basically is, he is the most dangerous inmate. So sorry about this, my glasses keep having this glare, so I'm gonna take them off for now. So Felix is the most dangerous inmate in the prison. So the warden who runs the prison, he brings in the special psychiatrist just to work with Felix because he really wants to understand his brain. And this is Dr. Love. And in all honesty, I do not remember very much about Dr. Love's character. But Felix very quickly becomes obsessed with Dr. Love, and it is a relationship that is very, very fun to read. And it's also just very deep. All of these relationships that Nyla K writes are just so emotional. They really tear at your heartstrings, and they're just so wonderful to read. So I really recommend this one. I don't remember too much about it. It's been a while since I've read it, but very, very good, and I would highly, highly recommend it. This one, you just fall in love with Felix throughout the books, and so finally getting his is lovely. So the final one is Fragments, and this one follows Ren and Luther, and you see them interact in Distorted, and you fall in love with both of them and fall in love with their friendship and also just their dynamic, because Ren is completely obsessed with Luther, and Luther is just this very normal guy. He is probably the most normal out of everybody in Alabaster Pen, and so seeing him interact with Ren, who is an arsonist and a compulsive liar and a master manipulator, it's just it's an interesting dynamic, and it's very fun, and you very much anticipate their book right from the jump, and so finally getting it is very, very fun and it's lovely. So yeah, I would highly recommend this series. I would highly recommend this author's work in general. Her stuff is very dark though, so please keep that in mind if you go into any of the books that she's written, because they are very dark and they have a lot of trigger warnings, so please be mindful of that and don't go in completely blind to these if you have any triggers. Keeping it going with Nyla K, the next book that I want to talk about is For the Fans. This one is my absolute favorite book. It's one that I will talk about whenever I get a chance. And this one follows Kyron and Avi. I could be pronouncing these names wrong, I apologize. But basically, they are stepbrothers, and they meet when their parents get married, and they move in together, and they hate each other immediately. So you see their dynamic when they're in high school, how much they hate each other, and then Kyron is so excited because he gets to escape Avi when he goes to college. But Avi decides, hey, I'm actually gonna go to this college. They have an amazing program that I want to go to, and so you're gonna be seeing me there. And Kyron is livid. He is very upset, but you see them interact a little bit there, and then something happens where all of their funding for their college gets cut off. They need to figure out a way to make some money, otherwise they're gonna get kicked out of college and not be able to keep going. So Avi, he has a way that he can make some money, and he offers to have Chiron join him. So this book, as you can probably tell by the fact that they are step-siblings, is a little bit more taboo. They're not step-siblings that were raised together. They met when they were in their teens, so it's nothing crazy like that. But it's definitely one that can get really dark at times. It's very spicy, and if that's not your thing, this is definitely not the book for you. This is not this short and sweet romance that doesn't involve any more PG-13 aspects. This is a very R-rated book. But that being said, it is very, very good. This one makes me cry every time I read it. I think I've read it 3 or 4 times now, and every single time I've read it, I give it 5 stars. And it is one that I will shout from the rooftops about how much I love this book. So please check this out. But again, with all of Nyla K's books especially, please check your trigger warnings. The next series I want to talk about is the Vitali Brothers by Skylar Snow and Bria Alapu. This series follows this group of brothers, the Vitali Brothers, and they run the mafia in New York. So the first book that we get is Take Me Apart, and this follows Enzo, who is one of the brothers. He's on the autism spectrum, and it is the sweetest thing. He has all of these little quirks because he's on the spectrum, and they are just so adorable to read, and they just manifest themselves in the way that he loves so beautifully. And it's just a really adorable romance because of that. When you hear mafia, you don't necessarily think adorable romance, but then enter Enzo. He's this big, scary mafia man, but he does all of these little cute things for his partner, whose name is Tex. Tex is a detective, and he tasks himself with taking down the Vitali brothers. So he goes to a bar where he knows Enzo is going to be. He flirts with him a little bit. They hit it off. They spend the night together, and neither of them can stop thinking about the other one, even though they both know who the other person is. They just keep coming back for more with each other, and it is wonderful. It is so cute. It is a little insta-lusty, I will say, but you definitely feel the emotions between them, and it's just such a good start to the series because it introduces all of the other brothers really well. It gives you a glimpse into their dynamic, and it's just a really, really wonderful book. And it's so nice seeing someone like Enzo, who is so cold. He's like ice, basically, and he just has all of this life brought to his life through Tex, and it's just so wonderful to read. So the next one is Paid in Full, and this is Jin, or Giancarlo's book, and he is the one that I was most excited for personally. He's the fun one, he's the wild one of the group. He's like the golden retriever of their brothers, and so I was most excited for his because I knew his book was just going to be really fun. And so we get him, and he is on his way to collect a debt from someone who owes the brothers money, and he finds out that the way that this person is trying to make the money that they owe him is by selling his son. Instead of taking the money from the sale, he decides, I'm going to buy the son instead. And so he says, screw you, I'm taking your son, I'll just take a little bit off your debt, but I'm taking your son with me. So he takes his son, Ash, and just kind of forces him to live with him. And you hear this and you think, that's really screwed up. He's kind of just kidnapped this person, but it's a really sweet dynamic, actually. So again, it's a mafia series, so it's not going to be anything super warm and fuzzy, but it's just a really good book, and it's surprisingly emotional. So yeah, I would highly, highly recommend this one. The next one is Say I Do, and this one follows Benito, and he is kind of the unnamed ruler of the mafia. His father is officially in charge, but Benito is the one that runs everything, and so he decides, you know what, we're having some troubles with the Yakuza right now. Let me marry the child of the head of the Yakuza, and let's combine our resources, our allies, let's just combine and make things easier for everybody. So he is promised the daughter of the Yakuza head, but he is instead faced with the wild son, Harlow. So Benito initially wants to marry for an heir, but when Harlow shows up, there's nothing else that he can do, so he marries him, and they butt heads immediately. They are the definition of a murder duo. Like, Harlow is very, very wild. He is just very uncontained, and Benito is very controlled, and so Harlow kind of brings the wildness and the fire back to his life, and it's just very fun to see Benito start to let loose and start to get angry and just start to feel. And so yeah, it's a very interesting book in that sense. Harlow makes things really interesting for sure. That is Say I Do. It's a marriage of convenience, and it's just very fun to see them banter and see them butt heads and see them physically fight each other. It's just a very entertaining thing. So the next book is Never Say Never, and in this one we are introduced to a member of the Vitali organization that I can't say who they are, but he is undercover in the FBI, and he's there to gather intel because the Vitali Brothers are being hunted by the FBI. So he is there to make sure that if there's ever going to be any raids or anything, that he can stop them from happening, or just make sure that his organization gets the inside scoop on what's going on. But that all starts to crumble when he starts to catch feelings for his boss, and once he meets his daughters, he starts to catch feelings for them as well. So this one is very good. This one is a lot more emotional, I want to say, because you see these attachments really start to form, and then when the character's identity is really revealed, you see the boss of the FBI start to really question, like, oh, how do I care so much for this person when this is who they actually are? So it's just a very good book in that sense because it's just so deep and you feel so much. And then you also get to see the interactions with York's daughters, and they are really, really special as well. So I would highly recommend this one from the series. The final one that is out currently is End It All, and this one follows Quincy that we meet in book 3 and another member of the Vitali organization that, again, I can't really name. But this member kind of comes up out of nowhere. Nobody's really expecting him to show up, and he needs a place to stay, so Quincy offers his place. This one is just really, really good. Quincy, you don't really expect what you get from him in his book. He's very much like Harlow in the sense that he's more out there, and so when you see him in his book, there's a lot more to him than meets the eye, and it's really enjoyable to read. And then the final book in this series is Always the Villain. That one is on its way this year, hopefully, and this one is about the father, and this one may be the final book. I think that it is. But yeah, this series is really good. Obviously, check your triggers for this because it is mafia and it does involve like murder and violence and things like that. So if you have any triggers for anything, it's definitely one that I would recommend you check them on, just because, again, it's not something that's super light and fluffy. Even though it does have some more wholesome, lighthearted moments, it is still a mafia romance. So check your triggers if you have them. Next one is Goliaths of Wrestling by Lily Mayne. I mentioned 2 of the books from this series in my wrap-up that I did earlier, Impromptu Match and Clean Finish, so I won't go too deep into those just because I talked about them earlier this month. So this series follows a group of monsters that live in and amongst humans, and they have an underground wrestling ring that they take part in, and there's all these different monsters. There's werewolves, there's fae, there's shapeshifters, you name it, it's probably there. So the first one is Impromptu Match, and this one follows Holt and Taylor, and Holt runs the Goliaths. He is in charge of everything, and one night he hires a prostitute to pretend to be a sad office worker, because Holt is, I want to say, an empath or something similar to that, because he feels the feelings of those around him. So he was wanting to feel sad, so he hired someone sad, and enters Taylor, who is a sad office worker in real life, but he is a human, not someone shape-shifting as a human. So he comes down to Holt's office, and Holt very quickly realizes, this is not the person that I hired. But they get drunk, they talk, they bond, and in the morning, they both realize, I really don't want to forget what happened here. I want to keep interacting with you. I want to remember this. And so they form a relationship, and it is really, really wonderful. This isn't a book that's going to make you super emotional, at least it didn't for me, but this book is just really fun. It was exactly what I was needing when I read it. It's just very lighthearted, and it's something that you can fly through, and it's very fun, and I would highly, highly recommend this. Next one is Clean Finish. This one was my favorite. I've only read 2 of the 4 books that are currently out right now, and this one was my favorite by a mile. It was a 5-star, and this one follows Seb, who is Holt's bodyguard from book 1, and Larkin, who is Holt's assistant. So Larkin has been flirting with all of the wrestlers. He's been talking a really big game about how he wants to get with all of them, but he, in actuality, has 0 experience in any way, shape, or form. So he's realizing, I've talked a really big game. I need to start living up to what I've been saying. So enter Seb, Larkin decides, I need to get some practice. I need to get some experience before I interact with all these wrestlers because they have a lot more than I do. So he goes to Seb, who is very safe. He's very warm. He's very quiet. He's basically like an old man trapped in a werewolf's body. He loves a crossword puzzle. He is just very sweet. He's very mellow and he's very wonderful. And he has a major crush on Larkin. He thinks he hung the moon. And so when Larkin comes up to him and says, hey, can you help me practice? Can you help me get more comfortable? Seb jumps at the opportunity. So yes, this book is absolutely everything. It is so good, and I would highly recommend this one. I don't think you really need to check trigger warnings with this series, but if it is something that you have, it's always a good idea to check. The next one is Cheap Heat. I haven't read this one, but it follows Rafe, who becomes the new IT guy for Goliaths, and it follows Dan, who is one of the wrestlers. So they're neighbors, and they have always butted heads. They've lived across the street from each other for a couple years now, and the entire time Rafe has had a huge problem with Dan because Rafe is very introverted, he's very quiet, whereas Dan loves a party, he is very loud, and he's constantly trying to get under Rafe's skin. So they start to get brought together a little bit at work, and then when Dan realizes how much he actually kind of likes Rafe, he starts trying to get under his skin a bit at home as well, and the lines between them start to blur. The next one is False Comeback. Again, I haven't read this one, but this is the last one that's out currently. And this one follows High Lord Crossbody, who is a Fey prince, and Vince, who I want to say is a ghoul. And they've been working together for about 5 years now, and the entire time they have absolutely hated each other. But then upper management starts to get involved, and they have to start working a little bit more closely together. The hate continues, they start fighting more and more, and then eventually that hate becomes passion that explodes. I absolutely love this series so far. Again, I haven't finished it, but I see so much potential with this series to be just such a nice palate cleanser series, and it's just something that if you're ever in a slump and you need something fun and fast and just something that's gonna make you happy, this is exactly what you want to pick up, because Impromptu Match was everything I was needing when I was in my slump, and it got me back into reading. It made me fall in love with reading again when I was really struggling, so I would really highly recommend this one. The next one is Him and Us by Elle Kennedy and Serena Bowen. So this one, it has its own universe a little bit, so there's Him and Us, and then there's also a novella, and then there's a spin-off series that starts with Good Boy. And so this series follows Jamie and Ryan, and they have been best friends their whole lives. They see each other at summer camps every year, but one year they make a bet, and it makes things very awkward between them, and so they don't speak for 4 years. But they're both playing hockey in college now, and they reconnect when they face off against each other, and then Ryan realizes how much he's missed his best friend Jamie, and that he needs to take any opportunity he can to spend more time with him. So Jamie works at a summer camp every year, the summer camp where the bet happened, and Ryan decides, I'm gonna start working at this camp with Jamie, and I'll surprise him there. The series is really good. It's really fun, but it's also emotional because they have such a history, but you see their chemistry, and you also see them just kind of rebuild their friendship, and also remember how much they actually really care about each other, and also that there are some feelings buried deep down for both of them. So the final series I'm going to mention is From Nothing by Nordica Knight. This series is a lot darker. There's violence in this. It's set in a trailer park, and both MCs in this series have kind of abusive or not so nice households. There is some dark elements, and so just check your triggers with this one as well if you have them. So this is a trilogy, and the first 2 books, Garen Park and Lot 62, follow Devin and Maddox, and they have lived in the park together their entire lives, and they have hated each other that entire time. But they're constantly forced to interact because they both do motocross, so they face off there constantly. And then also their brothers, Nate and Xavier, they are best friends, so they're forced to see each other all the time because their brothers are best friends. But one night, Devin is in some danger and he needs to hide, and the only safe place that he can find is Maddox's trailer. So this series is really good. It's really dark. It's heavily on enemies to lovers, and they also fight each other a lot, even when they're together. But this is just such a good series. There's so much emotion that you feel reading this. They go through so much living in this park, and seeing them finally eventually get their happy ending is just everything. So I would really recommend this. But again, check your trigger warnings. The third book and the final book in the From Nothing series is Knock Knock. This one follows Nate and Xavier, the best friends and the brothers of Maddox and Devin, and they finally get their books. So at the start of Knock Knock, everything is really good for the brothers, but they realize everyone's life is really settled and we get to take care of ourselves for once. So they start thinking about things that they want from their lives, and they realize that I don't really want to exist with anybody that's not you. And so they start having this kind of bucket list where they do things together, and they realize, like, I don't know if we're actually just friends here. So this book is really, really good. It's not one that a lot of people loved, and it's not one that I felt a ton of emotional connection to, but it is one that is very, very good. And you get to see more of Maddox and Devin, which is always fun. So I would definitely recommend this series as a whole, and then also the individual books. Obviously, because they're connected, you'll probably want to read them in order, but I think that you could read Knock Knock without reading Garen Park and Lot 62. You would just be missing a lot of pieces. Also, with Goliaths of Wrestling, you can definitely read the books separately, but again, you would be missing some backstory and things like that, but they are interconnected standalone, so you could definitely do that. So those are all of the books that I wanted to talk about in this video. I'm sure that down the line I'll read more, and who knows, maybe next year I'll make another video for this, but these are all books that I've just loved so, so much, so I would highly recommend all of these. Again, check your triggers if you have them, but I really hope that you're able to find a book that you love in this, and yeah, I hope that you have a lovely rest of your day, my loves.